So we don't know what it is that Edmund drank. Okay, here we go. It is dull, son of Adam, to drink without eating, said the queen presently. What would you like best to eat? Turkish delight, please, your majesty, said Edmund. The queen let another drop fall from her bottle and onto the snow, and there appeared a round box tied with green silk ribbon, which when opened turned out to contain several pounds of the best Turkish delight. Each piece was sweet and light to the very center, and Edmund had never tasted anything more delicious. He was quite warm now and very comfortable. While he was eating, the queen kept asking him questions. At first, Edmund tried to remember that it was rude to speak with one's mouth full, but soon he forgot about this and thought only of trying to shovel down as much Turkish delight as he could. I like that verb, shovel. And the more he ate, the more he wanted to eat. And he never asked himself why the queen should be so inquisitive. She got him to tell her that he had one brother and two sisters, and that one of his sisters had already been in Narnia and had met a faun there, and that no one except himself and his brothers and sisters knew anything about Narnia. She seemed especially interested in the fact that there were 4 of them and kept on coming back to it. You are sure there are 4 of you? 2 sons of Adam and 2 daughters of Eve, neither more nor less. And Edmund, with his mouth full of Turkish delight, kept on saying, yes, I told you that before, and forgetting to call her your majesty. But she didn't seem to mind now. At last the Turkish delight was all finished, and Edmund was looking very hard at the empty box and wishing that she would ask him whether he would like some more. Probably the queen knew quite well what he was thinking, for she knew, though Edmund did not, that this was enchanted Turkish delight. I knew it. And that anyone who had once tasted it would want more and more of it, and would even, if they were allowed, go on eating it till they killed themselves. But she did not offer him any more. Death by Turkish delight. Also, I didn't mark, but when, the box contains several pounds of the best Turkish delight, and he ate the whole box in one sitting. That already sounds like a stomach ache. Okay, so Edmund goes back. Here's a bad thing. When he meets Lucy on the way back, so she's like all happy, yay, you know Narnia is real, you can tell the others. But when she asks Edmund, tell our sister and brother that Narnia is real, he says it's not. He says that she's making it up, and he was playing along with her just so she wouldn't feel bad. Now Edmund has betrayed Lucy, because he lied. And he also kind of unknowingly betrayed Mr. Tumnus, because he told the witch that Mr. Tumnus knew about them. So Mr. Tumnus is in trouble. So here's when there's a time with the professor. Susan and Peter tell the professor we have 2 siblings that have different stories. And the professor pretty much asks which one would lie and which one wouldn't. And when they say that Lucy would not lie, then it doesn't matter how fantastical her story is. He's like, well, then you should believe her. And here we have the professor not saying, well, that's a ridiculous thing that never could have happened. We have him saying, whose character can you count on? This reminds me of something I tell my kids. I tell my kids, you can trust someone to be who they are. So Lucy is, she's trustworthy, and that's what the professor is telling her. Eventually, all 4 kids get into Narnia, and they put on the coats, and they all go together. Now, the whole time, and Lucy's trying to take him to Mr. Tumnus, but when they get there, his cave, I think he lives in a cave, has been ransacked. There's no sign of him, and trouble. So Edmund, all this while, wants to get back to the queen. He keeps thinking about Turkish delight. He says things like maybe she's not so bad. Two beavers call the kids over and they take them to their house and they kind of fill them in. Now that's the role of the beavers. I told you about them. The kids learn more and more about Narnia through the beavers. They don't have to just stumble upon things and go and figure it out. At some point, Edmund leaves, and when they realize he's left, they also realize that he has betrayed them to the White Witch. He's on his way to talk to her then, and they need to hurry up and get where they're going. They want to get to this thing called a stone table and meet Aslan. Now, Aslan is the lion, and remember I told you there's a divide here, a very clear divide of good and evil. And Aslan and his army is good, the witch and her army is bad. They are on their way to the table, and as they go, strange things happen. Like they hear birds for the first time. They start to hear, they stop and like, wait, I'm hearing something, what is it? And they realize it's running water. So different things are starting to melt, things are starting to drip. They do run into Santa Claus and he gives them some gifts. They think they call him Father Christmas. And then on the other side, when Edmund gets to the queen, she is not nice. She becomes more like a witch. She's not nice to him. She's very upset and says, I told you not to come by yourself. You were supposed to bring your siblings, and she is not happy with him. He certainly doesn't get any Turkish delight. He sees that she has turned a lot of beings into stone, like in her courtyard at her castle. There's a whole bunch of what looks like statues, and it turns out to be beings that she's turned to stone. When they are rushing to the stone table in her sled, everything's melting, so she doesn't get very far because she needs snow, and they have to walk. So the beavers and the other kids have time to get to the stone table. What happens is they feel very in awe of Aslan. He's a big old lion. And what it comes down to is Edmund betrayed people, so she gets to kill him. And because betrayers belong to her or something. And then Aslan goes and talks to her, and what he does is he trades his life for Edmund's. So he doesn't tell anybody that's what's happening. He gets people ready for a battle. Peter's going to have to lead them. And at night he sneaks away. The two girls, Susan and Lucy, follow him, and he lets them walk with him to help him feel better. But then he says, you got to stay back here and don't say anything no matter what happens. He gives himself willingly to the witch and her army, and they humiliate him, and then they kill him on the stone tablet. Aslan the next morning comes back to life, and he tells Lucy and Susan that there was even deeper magic that the witch did not know of, and that is if an innocent being willingly gives himself up to be killed in the stead of the guilty person, then he gets to come back to life. What happens is Aslan brings all those stone people back to life, stone beings back to life by breathing on them. Peter, and they're doing okay in the battle, but they're not winning. And when the new recently revived beings plus Aslan show up, they win. The witch is killed, and the kids go on to be 2 kings and 2 queens and sit in the thrones at Cair Paravel, just like the witch tried to make not happen. It's like all these books. We didn't talk about any others, but I'm thinking of some where there's a prophecy. There's a prophecy, and then somebody tries to thwart the prophecy, and that very action brings about the prophecy, which is what happens here. And the kids stay and rule Narnia until they're older. It doesn't say old, but they spend years there. So they are, I'm going to guess they're still kind of young. Let's say even 30s. So maybe they doubled their lifespan there. I guess that would depend on how old they were at the beginning. Okay, that's unimportant. At one point, they're chasing a white stag, and they have to get off their horses. They're on their horses. They have to get off, and they're going through branches again, and they tumble out of the wardrobe, and they're back at the professor's house. This is a long story. They tumble out of the wardrobe. They're back at the professor's house. Not even a half hour, I think, has passed, which is something that when Lucy first went into the wardrobe, when she comes out, thinks she's been gone for hours, and she's telling her siblings, I'm back, don't worry. And they're like, what are you talking about? We just left the room. You didn't have time to go anywhere. So there's a difference in the passage of time. They show up back in England, and they're kids again, and they're not kings and queen of anything. I remember. But the professor several times does that, where he does kind of what he did, where they tell him about Narnia, and he isn't surprised. He's the adult that says that their experience is their experience, that it is real. That's pretty cool. Okay, so much, and I didn't get into much analysis because there was so much to tell. That's a lot of this and then that and then this and then that. Okay, so, next time, if I didn't do it already, at some point we'll have some Turkish delight. Bye.